mic issues.
Isn't there like alternate cuts of Final Destination?
I feel like there was a talk of a Final Destination that was like choose your own adventure.
Yes, there
I feel
was.
like that was like a thing for a second.
Surprised Netflix hasn't done that since Bandersnatch did so well.
Huge hit, Bandersnatch.
Hello, everyone. We're talking director's cuts, alternate cuts, final cuts, any kind of
ultimate cuts.
Ultimate cut. This is two different versions: PG-13, rated R.
Ooh, unrated cut.
Once Upon a Deadpool.
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about
unrated cuts. Were so crazy because they would just like sell you on like more like raunchiness, and it was like a couple deleted scenes.
Yeah, they put the deleted scenes back in, but we ate it up.
Yeah, there was like a little bit of like a raunchy cover, like
like the Anchorman one.
Yeah.
I think Knocked Up had one.
Yeah, I feel like the Girl Next Door had one.
Yeah.
Harold and Kumar definitely had several.
They lived off of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, just get it off the bat. There's Ridley Scott it could make an entire list.
Yeah.
Blade Runner is obviously the most obvious example of multiple cuts in order to nail it. And it didn't take him until 2007 until he was finally happy.
Yeah, Ridley could be on the list all the time. We got to shout out Kingdom of Heaven, which is just so much a better movie.
Yeah, I've not seen it.
You need to.
I've not seen either version.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. Like, when we pose this question, does a director's cut really stand out because you remember what the original cut was?
I think in some respects, yes.
Yes, and so I'd say if you can manage it, watch original Kingdom of Heaven and then watch the director's cut, so you can really see like, oh wow, yeah, there's things that he gives more room to breathe. The characters are actually likable. It's like it's just crazy that the studio's like, nope, we need to cut 45 minutes.
And it takes place during the Crusades.
Yeah.
And Liam Neeson and Orlando
Bloom, Edward Norton, but you don't see him at all.
Okay.
He's behind a mask the whole time, and just really good movie. Yeah. It's one my dad raves about. So shout out, Dad.
Bombed at the box office.
Huge bomb.
But I think everybody that has seen both cuts is like, oh man, it's like two different movies.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I kind of want you to watch both so you can see because I don't want you to come in here and be like, I watched it. It was good. It wasn't great, but then I think sometimes our thoughts on it are like, whew, yeah, it's incredible compared to the original cut.
To stay on Ridley, the Blade Runner, the final cut versus the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
It's like two different movies. Even though they're exactly the same runtime, one has narration, one does not. Yeah. There's a couple changes.
That may be the biggest, when you talk director's cut, he goes back in. I mean, set aside George Lucas and other people who go back in.
We'll discuss that at the end.
and change things. But a full on, we are adding more stuff in, or we are the idea that we put narration in it totally changes the movie.
There are so many different versions of Blade Runner, it's kind of insane
and confusing
because some of them are just straight up awful, but the final cut is the one that everyone should watch. Don't even bother with Kingdom of Heaven. I think you have to watch both probably to understand, but with this one it's if you watch any of those other three, you're gonna think Blade Runner is a terrible movie. But I want to talk about Watchmen.
Okay.
Because Zack Snyder, he's built built his reputation since Watchmen doing director's cuts of his movies. Yeah. And not notoriously because no one even actually watched them, but for Netflix, his little Rebel Moon stuff, I've watched both of the PG-13 versions. Yeah. I don't know how you make it a better movie because they're not good movies to begin with.
I don't think you do.
And I don't think he did because I saw the reviews for the part 1 director's cut.
Yeah.
But going back to Watchmen, I've seen both the original and the director's cut. The original is fine.
Original is serviceable and does a decent job.
But if you have read the comic, the director's cut is more aligned with the comic, even though there's no giant octopus. But that's okay. And Alan Moore will tell you that it's not watchable at all. But that man thinks all movies are best.
Yeah, I think this one, and so there's two versions. There's director's cut, which is the one I like, and it's really good. And it's long, but it's
long, but it also corrects the problem with the theatrical cut. So it has Rorschach he's very much playing like, oh, he's the good guy.
Yeah.
When in the comics, arguably, there's only a couple good guys.
Yeah.
And they never win. And in Night Owl, obviously, is the prime example there. And that holds through with both cuts. But in the director's cut, Rorschach is less of a protagonist and more of an antagonist. Yeah. And Ozymandias, obviously, is much better in the director's cut. You actually get to see him be the awesome villain that he is. Yeah. So I don't want Zack Snyder to make director's cuts.
It's wild to me that now he's like, no, I promise the director's cut's gonna really where it sings. I'm like, well, just do that one. Like it seems like Netflix didn't care. So just give us. I understand where like Warner Brothers was like, you need to shorten a little bit and you cut some weird things out. And of course, get your director's cut in. But for you to just like, for Netflix to be like, give us whatever you got, and you're like, all right, I got 2 plans. We do a regular one, and then I get a director's cut. I'm like, no, we'll just buy the director's cut. Like, just do that.
But Netflix is probably like, minutes watched, man. Minutes watched. That's all we care about.
I guess. It's weird. I haven't even watched them because I know it's a...
There is a good movie for about 20 minutes of the whole 4 hours.
Yeah.
So...
And listen, I just do not want to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, so...
And also he did a director's cut for Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah, which, again, people argue is better, but, like...
How
much is better when it's not even that good to begin with, you know? It's like, of course it's going to be a little better, you know? You've added 30 extra minutes. Like, if it's not better, if it's somehow worse, we got to talk, Zach.
I do know that Clark Kent in the director's cut is investigating Batman as a vigilante.
Yeah, and they set up the whole, murder and that Superman's murdering people a little better, but
now this is not official because it's not. I think it's a deleted scene on the DVD, if I remember correctly. Unless they released
We're talking I Am Legend.
We're talking I Am Legend.
That's what I thought.
Unless they released it like as a full cut.
I feel like they're gonna have to.
Well, the sequel follows the alternate, so that is canonical.
They're gonna have to release it.
So if you don't know, Will Smith's I Am Legend, he's the last surviving human, or so he thinks, of an apocalyptic, like a virus takes over, kills everybody.
Yep.
Well, not kills some people, turns other people into sort of like a vampire, zombie hybrid thingy. They end up taking over the world. So the whole movie, he's trying to develop a cure. He keeps stealing them, like capturing them. And only he finds out later in the movie, sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't watched, but it's a 17-year-old movie. They are the new society of the world.
And so he is the monster.
He is the legend.
And then that's like it is baffling. I remember even sitting in the theaters and like, gosh, I guess I would have been like 15 and then being like, they really botched this ending. Like it kind of like ruins the whole movie and the point of the movie of that, like, we can all become a monster depending on your POV, you know? And it's like, for him to just go out like a hero and he'd be like, nope, I'm going to murder all these guys.
But in the alternate cut, he survives. He decides to give the wife of the leader of the group back to them.
Yeah.
He survives. He ends up going upstate New York or something like that.
With the other 2 other people. Yeah.
And so that's what the sequel is going to follow.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that this alternate cut, that was just a deleted scene for a very long time. Everyone was like, no, this is what happened.
It's weird. I don't know. It's weird to do that and for the movie to also be like a remake of the Omega Man.
Yeah.
And also just, a piece of literature.
Yep.
And it's just like, no, we changed the end. That is just baffling to me. And I don't know if that's just like studio being like, no, we want to surprise people, or like, I just don't understand where that thinking was. That like, you had a perfectly good ending right there and you just were like, no, we need Will Smith to blow up at the end.
But at the same time, Francis Lawrence, who directed it, I don't think he had like a lot of say back then.
Not after Constantine?
Well, should have.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a hit, so he probably just took I Am Legend.
Yeah.
But he already signed. But then also he did some Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So maybe now he's got a little bit of
juice where he can.
So
is he making the sequel?
I don't know.
Michael B. Jordan's in the sequel. Is that true?
I see a lot of CGI AI fake trailers on YouTube. I never click them, but it's like roided up Will Smith and the dog.
Sick. Also ties to Batman v Superman.
In what way?
Because I remember like that was a huge thing that there was a poster for like what everyone thought was going to be a Batman v Superman movie, and it was just sitting in Times Square. And it's like,
hey, look, it was right. It was right all along. This one's not good because, well, I don't know. I never finished it, but Caligula has about 10 different cuts. I think it holds the record for the amount of different versions that exist out there.
Didn't they just like put this back in like 4K?
Yeah, which I think is like the definitive cut.
The definitive cut, okay.
This and Blade Runner have the most like versions, I think. Caligula, I've tried watching it. I don't know which version I watched. Look, they were doing some weird stuff in the 70s. Yeah. This has gratuitous sex scenes. It also is Caligula. If you know anything about Caligula, he was down bad for being a little freak. So
that's on the DVD. That's a review.
I never went back and finished it. Yeah. It's not like I hated it, but it was just like I didn't know who this movie was made for. Yeah. And it was at the tail end of like porn being part of the mainstream. Yeah. Because in Taxi Driver, he famously takes the woman to a porn movie, and she's like, I don't like this.
Yeah. Is Mr. Feeney in Caligula?
I have no idea.
I feel like
Helen Mirren's in it. Okay. There's quite a few actors in it.
I can't remember if Mr. Feeney's in it.
I don't know, but it's like it is just like when people talk about like director cuts, it has to be mentioned just because it's such a weird little timestamp in history.
It's just a weird time in history. It's not just a weird time. It's just a weird time in history where like, yeah, what if we made like a sword and sandals movie? Mm-hmm. But also it's kind of boring.
Yeah. And then obviously like...
And let's make it like 3 hours long.
And unwatchable. Supposedly.
Yeah.
Obviously...
Well, you did not finish it, so I guess that could be...
It didn't finish it, so...
Unwatchable.
And that was about 15 years ago.
Cool. Well, they've made like 3 different cuts since then.
Exactly. Maybe I'll go back and watch it. So now, you mentioned George Lucas earlier. And he famously has redid the CGI.
Yeah.
Do you consider those director cuts, or is that just like touching it up?
I feel like that's a little bit of a metal.
Mm-hmm. Because they also like delete characters and like add characters into backgrounds.
Well, if you watch the original, I like the addition. I like the change of Jabba. I mean, it doesn't look good in execution, but it makes sense that if that character was going to be set up in the first movie, and then but all of a sudden he just shows up in the third movie because you cut the scene, and now he's like a worm monster versus like just a mobster looking guy. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
but do I need like you changing who shot first, or like McClunky, or just bad additions to think like even the idea of like. There's a scene where they're going through Tatooine in New Hope, and you have like a fully CGI'd like creature because you just wanted to. I'm like, it's not like that doesn't change the story. It doesn't add anything to the story. It is just you being like, I got the tech, might as well.
Yeah.
And don't like it.
And to go back to the Who Shot First, not only does it look bad, but it also recontextualizes Han Solo. Because the whole reason people liked him is because
he was a rogue.
He did what he wanted to.
Did whatever he wanted. Yeah. And again, so I will give him a pass for Jabba.
Yeah.
Because again, you're setting up something. Mm-hmm. Just going to throw that scene back in. And then, but everything else, I'm just like, no, thank you. Should we end on the ultimate, like, extended editions? They're called extended editions. They're not director's cuts.
You're talking about Lord of the Rings?
Talking about Lord of the Rings.
I've never watched them, but...
They are...
I know Peter Jackson says that theatrical is what he prefers, but he understands people that want like the extended.
Like if you are a like Lord of the Rings... Stephen Colbert level fan, you should watch these. Yeah. They are so long. And I enjoy that. Like, I know people that will do the extended versions like once every like 2 or 3 years. I don't know how they do that, but... Good for you. I enjoy them. I think they're cool. Mm-hmm. I think they really are. Like, if you are into that, like, extra material version of it and not so much, like, does this change the story? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's more like, oh, we're just letting things breathe a little bit. And it feels more like you're reading a book versus this, like, movie. You go for it. I really think it's a really great example of, like, no, this is a really great cut. And this is my cut.
Yeah.
But if you want this extra stuff we shot, sure, here you go. You know, and... So I think that's really cool. I think Denis does a lot of that too. Denis will always say like, what you see on the screen is my cut. Yeah. And so that is like, that's what's cool now is like we are getting director's cuts because it is like, hey, no, I have the power. I have like earned the power to say what goes.
Yeah.
And then, so like for Denis to be like, no, there will never be extended Dunes. Like it is like Dune 1, Dune 2, and probably Dune Messiah.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's like, that's my vision. And there you go. You know, like people want these director's cuts and they're like, there's a reason they don't exist. Yeah. You know, it's like the cut is good.
But also you have stuff like Once Upon a Time in America, which is this like sprawling gangster epic that was like close to 5 hours long. Yeah. They cut it down, they chopped it up, destroyed the movie, put it in American theaters, didn't do well. And so then they finally released the full version that was like in cans and everything. So.
And so I mean, like that I'm cool with. Yeah. I think when you have a studio who clearly was like, we cannot put a 5-hour movie out. Which hey, I get it. You know, let him go back, let him go do it. But you know, it's.
That's why I think, not to keep talking, but that's why I think a lot of the prestige TV came along because, like, if you think of like these miniseries, they're essentially movies, and what Marvel failed to do. Was make these TV show movies. They kind of succeeded with Loki, but all the other ones, it's like, man, this was just a movie that you turn into a TV show.
Exactly.
So it's like either go all in for the prestige TV, or just make a movie. Yeah. And it's like, obviously Marvel learned the lesson, so.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Now, is there one, to end it on this, is there one like that it's not even a director's cut, it's a movie that like just doesn't exist, or like could have existed but just didn't? Like I'm thinking like, do you ever want to see just how bad Eric Stoltz would have been in Back to the Future?
Well, they did shoot like a third of the movie.
They shot a ton of it, or like, do you have any like desire to see the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad?
I would, just because
to prove them wrong, just to be like, no, it was a bad movie regardless.
Well, maybe, but also it's like they did cut a lot of the Joker out. Like he was supposed to be like half of the movie. Yeah. And so I would be interested to see like, okay, what was Ayer's and Jared's original vision for the Joker? Yeah. Because what we get is definitely not a good Joker. I don't know if it will be better. But at least we would see what their vision was.
I just hope that you're ready for all the those Jokers to make a comeback on Halloween.
They will
when that's released.
I will defend the first Suicide Squad. It is a very bad movie, but it's kind of hilarious to watch.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a good time. I would never just be like, oof, I'm not gonna sit through this,
because it's like you get Will Smith doing his Will Smithiest thing. You get Margot Robbie in the thickest New York accent possible. You get Jared Leto doing whatever he's doing.
You get needle drops left and right.
Sometimes not even warranted. But they come out.
Like it's crazy that like they just the Slim Shady it's just so random. Two things we want. We want the Ayer cut and we want the butthole cut of Cats.
Oh, the butthole cut. I forgot about that. Yes.